I want you to give the best Celebration Church welcome you can. Come on, stand to your feet and put your hands together for Ed and Lisa Young. Yeah.
Thank you. Woo!
Wow, it's great to be here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
How you guys doing? Celebration Church.
Woo! Awesome.
Yeah, I tell you, remain standing for a second. I love your pastors to death. You know, I love Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, I don't know him, but I just like that name, Tim Tebow. And people say, well, are you Tebowing, right? But I'll tell you somebody has a better name than Tim Tebow. Stovall Weems. If I had to choose between Tim Tebow, Lisa, or Stovall Weems, I'm going Weems every time. What do you guys say?
Yeah, that's good.
Weems. When Stovall comes to our church, he did an incredible message at C3 Conference. It was on a whole another level. No one clapped. Everybody's like, Weems.
That's awesome. Thank you. Be seated. It is so great to be here, and I can't wait for tomorrow night at Sisterhood. We're going to have a great time. Listen, if you have never been to Sisterhood, let me just encourage you, because even if you are thinking, oh, I'd have to come alone, I don't know anyone, there is something special and I believe anointed when sisters gather, and you're like, wait a minute, my sister's not here. Oh, yes, she is. So you be a part. It's going to be so much fun.
That's right. Well, today we're talking about a subject that is very, very interesting. Everybody's thinking about it. In fact, most guys have a sexual thought every minute or so. We're talking about S-E-X, sex. A lot of people, Lisa, kind of freak out when you talk about sex in church, and we're going to talk about why people freak out. However, I've got to tell you a little story. When I was like 5 years old, I grew up in church. My father's also a pastor. Any pastors' kids here?
Preachers' kids in the
house?
Yeah,
a couple.
Yeah,
you know,
around the different campuses.
I grew up in church, and on one Wednesday night, I'm like 5 years old. I look at my mother, and as I look at this other woman with a swollen belly, I go, Mom. And we were singing hymns, you know, bringing in the sheaves. I go, Mom, what's wrong with her? That girl's belly is swollen. What's wrong with her? My mother was like, Ed, shh, not now. Mom, tell me what's wrong with her. Why does she have a big belly? She finally said, Ed, I'll tell you after church. Because my mom's from the dirty South. I'm talking about Laurel, Mississippi. She has that accent. You know, I love it.
She's the only woman that says his name with 2 syllables.
Ed. Anyway, after church, she took me home because Dad had some meetings. He was probably thankful he had meetings. And she explained to me, on my level, the birds and the bees, she explained to me where babies come from and how you get babies. So after her beautiful sermonette, she said, Ed, what do you think about all this? I said, I don't believe you. No one would do that, I said. Well, after 30 years of marriage and 4 kids later, Mom was right. People do that. And Lisa and I have written a book about it. Now, this message, this seminar that we're going to do today and tonight is not just for married couples. It's also for those who were single. Because singles, you're always preparing for the
next step. God always takes us right where we are and puts us in planning mode for the future. So if you're a student, if you're maybe not even dating someone not right now, but you're thinking, well, there's a possibility out there in the future, or maybe you have a significant relationship going on right now, you may be even a young married person, whatever stage you're in, God is preparing you for what He has prepared for you. So it's very important that we listen up, that we take note, because we're processing things right now that will make a difference in our future. And what Ed and I like to say is what you do before the wedding altar alters what you do after the wedding altar. So
what you do before the wedding altar alters your marriage.
So we should always be in preparation mode. Ed and I have 4 children. Our youngest are twin daughters. They'll be here in the next service, who are 17. So we are anticipating the next stage of life, which is called the empty nest.
That's right.
Whew.
The empty
Yes.
nest. So we're always preparing for the next level
That's right.
of living. God wants to take us to a whole nother level, an H&L, or a wholly nother level. We're always preparing for that next what? Level. So if you're a student, it's the next level. If you're single, it's the next level. If you're married without kids, the next level. Maybe you have 4 kids, the next level. Maybe you're a grandparent, the next level. Is always the next level. So when we talk about sex, sex is not something we do, it's something we are. The first statement ever uttered about you was a sexual statement. It's a boy, it's a girl. And we work out those implications for the rest of our lives. But Lisa, for far too long, we've allowed the culture to hijack sex from us. And our culture has decaffeinated sex. I love coffee. And decaf coffee, in my opinion, is of the devil. Why
Okay.
even,
All right,
why
wait a minute.
even
Whoa.
drink decaf coffee?
Oh, yeah, Mr. Red Bull.
And we've allowed
Hey, listen.
and we've allowed the world to do that.
But I'm telling you, I have a confession to make. For a long time, I was a decaf drinker. And on our kitchen counter, it was pitiful. We had like 4 different coffee pots. One for regular coffee, one for decaf, a little mini one just in case you wanted something in the afternoon, and then an espresso machine. And so finally, I crossed over into the promised land and began to drink regular coffee, okay? But you know what I found out about decaf coffee? Decaf coffee is basically a coffee bean, just like a regular coffee bean, and it has been washed and washed and washed and washed and stripped, and sometimes even chemically diluted so that it has no more power. That's what the culture has done with sex. Now, you know what? Let's just stop right now and realize that we are not going to blame the culture. How can we expect our culture, media, Hollywood, all of these different things to have a God perspective when they don't have an understanding of our God, our great and holy God? So we don't want to blame the culture, but we want to realize that we're the voice. We are the sexperts, those of us who call ourselves followers of Christ. We are the sexperts who understand the caffeinated version of sex, the powerful version of sex. You cannot separate sex from God.
And it's time, Lisa, the church began to talk about it, because sadly over the years we've kicked the bed out of church and God out of the bed. Let's bring the bed back in church and God back in the bed.
That's right.
Let's do that. You know, back in the 1960s, people talk about the sexual revolution, and it's so funny these days. Have you noticed that everybody is talking about sexy? Oh, those are sexy chairs. That's a sexy car. That's sexy carpet. Everything is sexy, sexy. Oh, it's just so sexy. It's time that we start a sexual revolution and bring sexy back, because in the 1960s, the sexual revolution started. The word revolution means a change for the better. Basically, the sexual revolution was an illusion that caused a lot of worldwide pollution. Let's start, though, a sexual revolution, a change for the better. Let's see what God says about it. Let's look at God's purpose, because when we do it God's way, we can start a sexual revolution that'll be a solution to life. What do you guys say?
And we can bring sexy back way better than Justin Timberlake, don't you think? I think so.
That's right.
That's right. But we have to think first the way God thinks about sex.
So it's not, again, that we don't think about sex. We all think about sex, but could it be that we think incorrectly about sex? Sex is mental before it's genital.